Hey guys, first Regardsman here, and so I'll be talking about a heavy bolt rifle build for the heavy class for both operations and siege mode patch 8.1 of Space Marine 2. Now the heavy bolt rifle did get added to the heavy class in patch 7.0, though it was kind of an afterthought. The perk tree for this weapon isn't really set up for the heavy class. In fact, this weapon cannot enter heavy stance whatsoever, as opposed like the heavy bolter, heavy plasma, and multi-melta, and these weapons also have perks like heavy might for bonus damage and heavy stance, so you do lose some damage on this weapon, but there is one upside of no heavy stance, which is that you can just dodge off of rip when you're aiming, which you can't do with these other weapons. So that's a little bit easier to use for some people. Now, as far as the best variants of this weapon go, I would just take the accuracy variant, because this one only has 5 fewer rounds in the magazine compared to the magazine capacity version here. This one has 60 and 300 ammo reserve. This one has 55 and 275 ammo reserve. Very strange that the accuracy variant is so ammo efficient. There's pretty much no reason to use this one, and these other two aren't really much better for that. These ones have like way less than the magazine and ammo reserve, so just take this one. This one's the overall best and basically turns your gun into a laser beam for headshots. And as far as the perk tree goes, I would just take Headhunter. Headshots deal 10% more damage, just free headshot damage. Let me move over here to Adamant Hunter. When your health is below 30%, headshots deal 25% more damage. This perk is actually really good because it feels like it affects the base damage of this weapon. Unfortunately, in siege mode, you usually have like a healer on your team with like a bulwark with a big ring icon, or like unmatched zealot, so not zealot, excuse me, the vanguard. So you don't really get to proc this that often, so it's still a good perk, just better for operations for sure. Next perk here is fast reload. This weapon reloads 10% faster, free reload speed. Then we move down here into cleaving fire, which is shots will penetrate enemy block stances, dealing 25% of the usual damage. Not super valuable because it really only affects like 3 enemies in the entire game, which are like biovores, sword warriors, and like shield zangors, but still not completely useless. Next weapon here is, next perk here is remote threat. Enemies at a distance of more than 25 meters take 20% more damage. This is a pretty chunky damage increase, and you are shooting guys at a pretty far distance with the accuracy variant, especially in siege mode, so not really a bad option whatsoever. Unfortunately, this perk up here, able reload, after using a class ability, the equipped weapon instantly reloads, does not actually function at all with Iron Halo. I tried it with like fully draining the shields and everything, it just never reloads your weapon. I think it might just be a bug or like an oversight when they added this to the heavy class. Pretty stupid, it doesn't work. It only works on like the tactical, and that's kind of annoying, but overall, just take the remote threat. And if you want to move up here for like an extra perk point to like get the ammo reserve capacity increase, you could, but overall I would just take this one down here. Next perk is Great Might. Damage increases by 10% against terminus level enemies, just free boss damage, although I will say this weapon is pretty butt cheeks for actually taking on bosses in general, and your heavy plasma, your plasma pistol will be better overall for bosses anyways, and the heavy bolt rifle is just kind of a mediocre boss killer, even for like things like neurothropes. And then we move up here to Headhunter for more headshot damage. We take the tactical precision for more headshot damage and a decrease on non-headshot damage. Then we go into Recoupment, which is killing a Majora's level or higher enemy with a headshot. This weapon restores 1 armor segment. Cooldown is 15 seconds. This is just free armor restore. Not super good on this compared to like the Stalker Bolt Rifle, because you don't really kill the Majoras as much with this one, at least on headshots. Or I guess you do, but it just takes forever. But still a good perk here. Then we move over into Rapid Health, and then we take the Perpetual Penetration, which is each shot penetrates 1 additional target. This perk is actually like kind of useless on this weapon because we already have a Piercing 4 stat here, so that's kind of lame, but we just take this, move into the 10% damage increase. If you don't want to take these, you could like move down here and just go into the Rampage perk, or just take Remote Threat again for more damage at range, or just go to the ammo capacity variant. It's really up to you what you want to do here, but like either way, the Heavy Bolt Rifle is probably going to perform about the same regardless of what you pick here. Now, as far as the secondary goes, I do just take the plasma pistol, because with a heavy bolt rifle as our primary weapon, our boss damage is ass, so we kind of do need to have like an AoE option, and this one's very strong for that. And the perk tree setup I have for this is just going up the top here. Now you could take the rate of fire variant if you want. It is a better DPS and is better getting your contested HP back, which the heavy bolt rifle does struggle with. This weapon is not very good for getting CHP back whatsoever compared to plasma, or even the heavy bolter, or even the multi-melta, and it's just kind of unfortunate, but you know, that's why we take a plasma pistol as our secondary on top of the AoE gun strikes. But I do just choose to take the magazine capacity version, because otherwise you're a little ammo inefficient, but you can take both. Now for the actual perk tree on the heavy setup here, we do just take Restoration first. Killing 7 enemies in rapid succession restores 1 armor segment. Cooldown is 15 seconds. This is basically the only useful perk in this entire line here, so kind of a no-brainer, and armor restore in this game is very meta. Next perk we take is Fortitude. Health increases by 30%, because once again, this is like the only useful perk for a heavy bolt rifle. rifle in this whole tree. We don't overheat on this weapon at all, and we can't even benefit from the heavy stance whatsoever for strategic stand, so just take the health increase of 30%. Next perk I do take here is versatility. After switching weapons, your secondary weapon deals 20% more damage. The effect lasts until reloading or switching back to your primary weapon. The reason I take this over the overwhelming power is mainly because like most of our damage for bosses and things like that, and like bursts, is just going to come from our secondary plasma pistol, and 20% damage increase on that is quite chunky, especially when we like combine it with the brute force perk later. Next perk we take here is a team perk encompassing Aegis. All squad members take 25% less damage from range attacks. This is an incredible perk. It just gives you like a flat range damage reduction for your whole team. S tier perk for sure. Additional supplies really not that necessary in this game, especially in siege mode where ammo is quite easy to come by, and Bonds of Brotherhood is one of the worst perks in the entire game, so just take encompassing Aegis. Next perk we take here is consecutive execution. Killing 7 enemies in rapid succession restores equipment charge. Cooldown is 90 seconds. Equipment in this game saves games. Being able to spam out melt-a-bombs every 90 seconds or even shock nades is just super valuable. And if you do have a tactical on your team secure stockpile, you could take the perk Adamant Will. After Iron Halo deactivates, you take 20% less health damage for 10 seconds. This one is still really good because a 20% health damage decrease for 10 seconds is a very long uptime. On top of the fact this will stack for like all your other damage reduction with like armor restore, fortitude for that extra HP on top of your range damage reduction from encompassing Aegis. So still a really S tier perk here. It's just that we're assuming we don't have a secure stockpile tactical on our team for equipment recharge. We take this. Next perk here I take is field adjustment. Iron Halo recharges 20% faster, but its durability is reduced by 25%. Really strong perk here. Getting your Iron Halo back faster is just super valuable. The durability reduction does kind of suck at times, mainly against like multiple Terminators, even like Hellbrutes, but it's still overall way more valuable than even Obdurate Bastion, which I used to use a lot. Next perk here is brute force. When Iron Halo is in cooldown, range damage increases by 15%. Just a free range damage buff while your Iron Halo is in cooldown, which will happen all the time, so pretty much always take this, and these two perks kind of suck. And the next perk I take here is offensive capability. When active, Iron Halo deals damage over time to all enemies within 5 meters. Very strong perk. You'll knock over cultists instantly, destroy spore mines on your shield, destroy enemies who are like the Minoris at times, and even like put guys into execute with like the extremis enemies that tend to sit in your shield. I will say conversion field for an increased 50% on ability recharge for your whole team when your Iron Halo is active is still really good, but it's mainly good for like a coordinated team or like teammates that are really reliant on cooldown like Auspex or their banner. So for things like a Vanguard, it's not really that useful, so I just take this one in pubs. Now as far as the prestige perks go, I do just take auxiliary reload. Melee kills of extremis level or higher enemies destroy primary weapons ammo by 1 magazine. Pretty much an S tier perk for siege mode because just infinite ammo at some points, or like close to infinite ammo. Next perk here is conviction. When your armor is fully depleted, you take 25% less health damage for 10 seconds. S tier perk. This one pretty much always procs whenever you need it the most, which is when your armor is gone. And 25% less health damage for 10 seconds is enormous. This will stack for things like the Adamant Will perk here and encompassing Aegis and Fortitude. So really, really strong perk option here. It also has a great synergy with Restoration. Now, the next perk I take here is Indomitable Spirit. While performing Gunstrike, you do not lose control upon taking 80 hits, and you cannot be knocked back. This is the only way you can actually face check a Lictor with a Gunstrike. Not Lictor, excuse me, the Biovore with a Gunstrike, because Biovores will just face check you over and over and over at some points in the game, just make it impossible to actually Gunstrike them without this perk. This will stop that outright. Also helps you get hits on Lictors and other enemies that would otherwise stagger you with light attacks. Really valuable perk. Just lets you gunstrike in a scenario you'd otherwise be unable to, so super good for that reason. And I just take the duelist perk here, which is perfect parry and perfect block windows increased by 25%. This comes into play like single digit times in your actual match, mainly because it does not affect the startup time of your balanced parry window on the heavy class, because the heavy class does have like a negative 10 frame startup at 60 FPS for his parry window, which means like the first 10 frames of his parry he cannot actually parry at all, just be like a proper block, and then after that there's a 30 frame active window of perfect parrying where you can actually get a perfect parry off. So this doesn't actually affect that. It just affects like the latter 30 frames for your active parry window. It lets you actually perfect block, or excuse me, perfect parry a little bit longer. Hopefully that makes sense. Really this only comes into play if like you properly whiff an enemy, or an enemy comes in at the last possible second and you catch them like that little extra 25% bit. That's all it's really good for, but still not terrible. And these other 3 perks are just like kind of terrible, not that useful. Or Reverberating Impact is pretty good in like the operations. Just not really good at all in siege mode, unfortunately, because you're only going to be stomping that much or shooting too much is the main issue. Now, that's pretty much all I have to say for this build. I will say that the heavy bolt rifle could use some buffs, if we're being honest, for the heavy class, but it's still usable. It's just kind of terrible versus bosses, and it's definitely the worst option on heavy currently, but a lot of people love this weapon. A lot of people want to see a build around this weapon, so I decided to make one today. Hopefully this was concise enough to explain how to use the heavy bolt rifle. I'm going to show a little bit of gameplay here as well, and if you like content like this, subscribe for more, and as always, take it easy, guys.
We have reports of a command presence on the battlefield. You may be in for a challenging fight. Let them carry them. A car event to exterminate. Rearming. Suppress elite tyranny unit. Execute Iron Halo tactics. Focus on high priority targets. Iron Halo ready. Tyranny threat. Fire overhead. Intercepting projectiles. Iron Halo online. Cover my reload. Execute Iron Halo tactics. The weak can be eliminated after we purge the strong. Tactic ready. Revenant-type tyranny obliterated. Control the battlefield. Terminate the larger threats. Iron Halo ready. Engaging elite countermeasures. Reloading. Do not let the stronger threats overwhelm us. Obtaining armaments. Engage Iron. Corrupted. Render intact. Split open the stronger foe, then cleanse the rest. Target most powerful enemies first.
That's one. So we are most of our boss damage in our team currently. That's not like plasma pistols on the bulwark, but helpers are always kind of irritating with a proper setup.
Focus on the fiercest enemies.